¿Qué tal amigos de Cinco Razones Podcast? Yo soy Leandro Soto y en este episodio especial de hoy viernes, claro, hoy viernes pero lo podemos escuchar cuando sea porque somos un podcast, el único podcast en español de el network de Five Reasons Sports. Pero hoy vamos a hacer las cosas un poco diferentes porque tenemos dos entrevistas, una con nuestros compañeros de Swing and Mishes, Craig Mish y Jeremy Taché. Nos cedieron el honor de poder tener el audio de la entrevista en la cual Craig Mish estuvo participando con Dan Greenlee sobre los prospectos de los Marlins y lo que podemos esperar en el futuro por la organización de los Marlins en lo que se trata de el producto, el que van a poner en la cancha próximamente. Y también la entrevista con Denbo, que yo, mi persona, Leandro Soto, tuve la oportunidad de hacerle en uno de los juegos de la Liga Instruccional de los Miami Marlins ante la Liga Instruccional de los Washington Nationals. Muchas gracias a Craig Mish y a Jeremy Taché de Swing and Mishes, uno de los podcasts de Five Reasons Sports Networks. A ellos puedes encontrarlos en @Swings and Mishes y claro, nosotros puedes encontrarnos en @Cinco Razones POD. Yo y mis compañeros Ricardo Montes de Oca y Alejandro Villegas siempre les llevamos la mayor objetividad posible y la diversión máxima en lo que se trata del entretenimiento y los deportes en Miami. Thanks everyone for tuning in to this Five Reasons Sports Network Cinco Razones pod episode, a special episode joining the Craig Mish and Jeremy Taché Swings and Mishes, another one of our podcasts in the network Cinco Razones POD, Five Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Leandro Soto from Cinco Razones, and today we want to do something a little different. As I said in Spanish before, we're trying to do a joint network episode for this Friday that you could only listen not only on Fridays, but of course, anytime, because as a podcast, you can listen on your time. Five Reasons Sports Network, Leandro Soto, Craig Mish, and Jeremy Taché. We're about to take you the interviews we had the chance to do with Dan Greenlee and Gary Denbo at Miami Marlins instructional baseball game against the Washington Nationals instructional baseball team. Let's get started right now with Craig Mish. He sat down with Dan Greenlee, and here's what he had to say.
Dan, I think that most people are curious how your first year as the Director of Player Personnel has gone and the transition of you coming over to the Marlins, how you feel you guys have accomplished things this year.
Yeah, I think we accomplished a lot in some spaces and have a lot more to accomplish in others. I think we saw really encouraging things on the player side from a large population of players. And I think there's a lot of upside in the organization. I think things are moving in a very encouraging direction, and I think we're going to see that play out in a future that's not very far away.
And a lot of people wonder about that because certainly whenever you're involved in a build, as the Marlins owner Derek Jeter has said, we've seen teams around the league take 3-4 years, maybe even some longer, and no one's really quite sure how this will turn out. I guess my next question to you is that with the Marlins making a concerted effort to showcase here at Marlins Park some of the players that were recently drafted, I know that you had a very big impact in that draft for the first time here with the Marlins. What went into that draft? What kind of players were you looking for? And what would the overall message be to fans in terms of the kind of players that we will be seeing over the next few years that this organization will draft?
I mean, I think we're looking for impact players. They're the hardest to find. They're the hardest to I guess, be creative about and acquire through other means. I mean, impact players generally have impact tools, and they show you those ingredients pretty quick. So we went after guys that we can envision, I think, without too much imagination, being impact players up the middle, in a lot of cases, for the Marlins in the future. So we like to work backwards from the major leagues. You know, great major leaguers have things in common, and we try to acquire players who have similar ingredients.
Up until, I would say, 2000, maybe 16, 17, while other teams were very heavily involved in building analytical departments, the Marlins were admittedly very far behind in that process. I would say, for me personally, over the last couple of years, I did see more of a concerted effort to bring that to the light, but they didn't really value it as much as it appears as this current regime values it now. Is that accurate? And can you talk about how you implement an analytical staff to determine which players, or as part of which players, get drafted, get traded for, or cultivated through the years.
Yeah, I think, in order to trust analytics rightfully, you need sturdy statistics that are, as polished as they can possibly be. A lot of work is involved in organizing statistics to create models that are predictive. A lot of work goes into, ingesting data, creating statistics that you can rely on a daily basis, and on the field at the major league level, I guess all the way down through rookie ball and player acquisition, trades, the draft, anywhere else. So it's ongoing, but having some experience with some long-standing and heavy-hitting analytics departments, I can tell you that we are competitive in that space. I think that the decisions we make are fueled by some pretty strong indicators of success. And I think that no decision is fueled entirely by analytics here, and I don't think that that's ultimately the right answer for the Miami Marlins or for anybody else. But analytics will have some, if it's a pie chart, it's some sliver in every decision, some larger than others. But it's always going to be present for us, and I think we're in an increasingly good position for that piece of the puzzle to be as strong as it can possibly be.
Dan, Derek has said many times, we don't want to use analytics the most, we want to use it the best. He said that several times in interviews. So it's very apparent the teams that are using it the best. The Houston Astros are a good example of one. I would assume that the Yankees previously, as well as the Chicago Cubs, some of the teams that have won the World Series, and then you can even go far back to Billy Beane and Moneyball and all of that. So I guess the question is that when I hear something like, we don't want to use it the most, we want to use it the best, how? Because I don't know the answer. How is it used to the best of a club's ability?
Well, I think that's where the art comes into it. I mean, it's a science, but there's an art to delivering the information, and there's also an art to deciding what information is actionable. I mean, there is it's just a mountain of data, and it is growing and growing and growing in baseball. And if you try to employ every pebble on that mountain, you're going to drown people. You're going to make decisions that are conflicted because it's using too many pieces, and pieces that don't really matter blending with pieces that really do. So it's I think it's tricky when you get down to it into actionable decision making, whether it be a game strategy or roster decisions or in any sort of baseball related decision, to employ your best pieces of information for that particular decision. So I think that there is, if you're just acting upon every, hint of a correlation or every sign that something is statistically significant, you're using analytics the most. You could call yourself the most analytic, friendly team, but I think when it gets down to winning games, the right answer is something that employs a stream of information that players and coaches can successfully manage and act upon, and that win the day at the end of a decision about a roster or a player. So there's so much information out there. Using it all in every decision can really create a lot of unproductive results.
Okay, last couple for you. What I am predominantly actually known for is on SiriusXM hosting a fantasy baseball show every day. So that is really where, for 8 years, I've cultivated that. And I think that from my perspective, I think that I know some of the numbers that really mean something, but I'm sure that I'm missing out on something. Like, and just to give a layman's term, like, is it WAR that's more important to some others? Is it weighted on base? Is it batted balls in play? Like, I mean, is it a puzzle that you're trying to just piece together with all of those, or is there something that the Marlins look at differently than maybe I'm not seeing or others that aren't seeing?
Yeah, I guess when the game gets dissected in such a granular way that like StatCast allows, and TrackMan, I mean, we've got TrackMan units all the way down through the Dominican Republic. So like the ball is being tracked in space, every rotation that it spins, and everywhere it moves on the field, and now at the major league level, and in some minor league parks, you're getting every player's movement on any given play, and it's so I guess I would say there are things that we look at, and there are decisions made on statistics that are not available in the public. I think that's just the nature of the information that's at hand. There's some, but
proprietary information that can't be shared with anybody playing fantasy baseball, because that would help me win. Obviously,
right.
That's a key.
But I think generally, though, I think statistics that promote process over results you're starting to see some of those show up more in the public, and the predictive power of those can be greater than statistics that are rooted in results that can be polluted by luck and defenses and sequencing and whatever else. So we try to keep our statistics process oriented, and we try to work backwards from what works in the major leagues. So I guess I could say, as much as I could say is the statistics that the Marlins use generally start at the major leagues, look at what things on the most granular levels are successful in the major leagues, and then try to instill that at every level that we play.
Well, Dan, good luck. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Importante lo que tiene que decir Dan Greenlee. Gracias a Craig Mish por cedernos este audio y ceder la idea y llevarla a cabo de tener estos dos episodios juntos en este episodio especial de Five Reasons Sports Network, Cinco Razones POD y Swings and Mishes. Aquí está mi entrevista con Gary Denbo, que también tuvo mucho que decir sobre el desarrollo de los jóvenes que tienen la oportunidad de pertenecer al equipo que lleve a la ciudad de Miami a un campeonato de serie mundial. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Jeremy Taché from Swings and Mishes, for allowing me to use your audio and having it for one of our special episodes. Swings and Mishes, Craig Mish, Jeremy Taché, Five Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Leandro Soto from Cinco Razones POD. And here's my interview as I sat down with Gary Denbo and spoke about the development of the future stars for the Miami Marlins, who hopefully will bring a World Series ring to the city. We heard you already on the presser, but we want to get a little more info, mostly on how Gary Denbo and Jeter are working together, and the communication. How is it going? So you give him the feed that you're perceiving with these young guys, and so he knows when they're ready to be up in the big leagues.
Right. It's not just me. Dick Scott is our director of player development, and we have coordinators throughout the system: hitting coordinators, catching coordinators, pitching coordinators, and so on. And so we all communicate together and then come to some kind of conclusion about where these players are in their development. And we communicate with Mike Hill, the team president, about when it might be the best time to move these guys from one level to another. We've also communicated with Dan Greenlee, who's our director of player personnel. Dan statistically knows everything about these players. So we put all of this information together, and then it's my job to present that to Mike Hill and Derek Jeter. We communicate frequently. Derek is very much interested in what's going on in player development and in the scouting departments. He knows that's the future of the Miami Marlins, is player development and scouting, and developing our own players so that we can get them up here at a young age, hopefully to make an impact on our major league team and get us in a position to win championships.
Gary, this year we saw names like Austin Dean and even Isaac Galloway, who had been in the minor leagues for several years, more than 6 years. Yeah. They never got the chance to be in the big league, and they showed enough potential to be here. When the new regime came in, Gary Denbo, Derek Jeter came in, those guys got the opportunity. What's happening different between the last regime and this new regime, that these guys who have been in the minor league for so long now are getting the chance to come up to the big leagues?
I think we got to give credit to some of our coaches, that they've done a tremendous job with those guys. Obviously, most of the credit belongs to the players because they came in. Austin Dean came in great shape. Galloway, he's a premium athlete. Both of those guys made big improvements offensively to their games. Galloway's a premium defensive player anyway, and there's always room for players like that. So I would say what's happened, I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what's different about what they've done this year, but because I wasn't here last year to see them. But I know both those guys, they worked extremely hard during spring training. They put in the work. They made adjustments, both of them, offensively to their swings that enabled them to be more consistent, and that consistency led to them showing up on our radar and telling us that they were ready to perform at the next level. And anybody that performs in the player development system for the Marlins, they're going to get an opportunity at the next level up. We're going to have our best players that perform the best are going to be here in Miami, and that's what you saw this year.
Gary, can you speak about those broken infrastructures that the Marlins had before you guys came in and what you guys did to fix them?
I can't speak about the broken system that we had here before. It's something that it doesn't do us any good to go into what's happened here in the past. We definitely have learned from the mistakes that have been made here in the past, and we hope to do things in a better way. The changes that we've made have been in the processes that we use to make decisions, the information gathering that we have done over time. We've got Dan Greenlee, our director of player personnel here, and Dan Greenlee is near genius-like when it comes to putting together information, complicated information, and putting it in simple form so that he can. It's understandable for somebody like me, for our coaches, for our managers, for our scouts. So I think we're doing a much better job of gathering information and then putting that information into our scouts and our player development people's hands to be able to make better decisions about the players that we acquire and the players that we have in the system that are ready to move or that we have information now that tells us that maybe adjustments need to be made to their swing or adjustments need to be made to their pitch packages. So that enables them then to go out and perform at a much higher level.
As you know, the Hispanic community is the most predominant community here in Miami. How important is it for Gary Denbo and for the Miami Marlins to have a high-level Hispanic name on the Marlins roster, 2019 or the years to come?
I think it's like any fan. You want to cheer for people that you can relate to. So I think it's very important to have Hispanic players playing at a high level for this organization. Some of the things we're doing, we've hired an education coordinator named Emily Glass. Emily Glass has the education program is not just for the Spanish-speaking players; it's for the English-speaking players as well. So we're teaching our English-speaking players to speak Spanish, and we're teaching our Spanish-speaking players to teach English. But that's just the start of it. We're doing other things that, in terms of their education, in terms of life skills, the things that they need to know to survive when they go from whatever country they're coming into or coming out of into the United States. How to cook. We're having cooking classes. We're having finance classes. How to shop. How to eat right so they're fueled properly for games. So our education program is going to be comprehensive, and we think that that's going to enable players, Spanish-speaking players, Latin American players, to be more comfortable when they come into the United States. They come into this organization. We're showing that we care about not only their development on the field, but their development as people. And we think that's just going to make them more comfortable and enable them to perform at a better level and be better teammates.
Gary, events like the ones you guys are having today, where you guys have your minor league players, the most relevant of them, playing an instructional league game against the Washington Nationals, shows that you guys care and you guys want these guys to succeed. What can the Marlins fans can expect, not only from yourself, but from these guys that are right here in this field, and for the ones that aren't here right now but are definitely going to be taken in consideration to be part of the Marlins?
Well, it's our intention to develop championship caliber players and championship caliber people, and those things go hand in hand. Every opportunity I've had to be on a championship team, you've had those types of people on the team where you had not only great players, but you've had players that play for each other, players that are good teammates, players that know how to play the game the right way. That's kind of the definition of a championship player for me. through our scouting departments, we're going to identify premium athletic players that have speed, that have power, and that have a chance to improve their game, have a high ceiling where they can get better as players over the course of time, and that way when they arrive in Miami, they can make an impact on this organization and make an impact on wins and losses and give us a chance to compete for championships every year.
To finish it off right now and cap it off, you mentioned that you guys are teaching even your players how to cook. You're teaching the English speaking how to speak Spanish and the Spanish speaking how to speak English.
Yes.
How do you feel those small things help the future of each one of these players?
I think the biggest impact that I've seen so far, we just started this a couple months ago, is that you look in the clubhouse now, and our Spanish-speaking players are interacting with our English-speaking players. Some of our coaches are taking Spanish lessons as well. So the communication has improved throughout the organization, and it's when Spanish-speaking players see English speakers making an effort to speak their language, I think that means a lot. I've had some experience with that. I've coached in Venezuela and Dominican Republic and Japan, and I know if you make an effort to speak the language of your teammates, then you're able to build a much better relationship, a much closer relationship. And I think when we do that, we have a chance to play together better as a team. And I think that over the long run, that's going to give us an advantage over every other team.
If I'd ask you to formulate a front cover, just like the Sports Illustrated did with the Houston Astros at one point, when they mentioned that they will be the 2017 World Championships, when would Gary Denbo say the Miami Marlins will be the champions of the Major League Baseball?
Yeah. That's a tough question to answer. We have pitching in this organization right now at the upper levels of the minor leagues that we feel very good about, that we feel like are going to compete at a high level. Once they arrive in the major leagues, our position players are a little further away. They're younger, as you will see here today. A lot of our best position players are young, and they have some development to go before they're ready to play at the major league level. So when I can tell you this, when young position players are prepared and we feel like they're ready to go, when our pitchers develop fastball command and command of their secondary pitches and learn how to pitch, then we have players in our organization right now that we feel like are going to enable us to compete for championships, hopefully sooner than later.
Do you feel like this process needs to be hurried up? Because the fans, they're asking for a winning team over and over, season after season.
Yeah.
Does this process need to be rushed a little bit? Or is it something that 2023 will see the Miami Marlins be the champions?
Listen, there's nobody that wants this process to happen faster than me.
Yeah.
However, I've learned over the years in player development, you can't rush the development of players. There's a process that you have to go through in baseball. It's not like football where you can go from college football to the NFL and be a star. There is a process that you have to go through in baseball where the talent level at each level, there's an adjustment period that needs to be made, to learn from each level. If we're in college, you're facing an 88-mile fastball to rookie ball where it might be 91, 92, to the higher levels where you're 94, 96, and then you get to the big leagues and it's 96 to 100. There's an adjustment that has to happen for an offensive player to go through each level where they learn what the moves are that they have to make to be able to compete against that type of competition. So baseball is not a game where you can rush development. Baseball is a game where, the best athletes in the organization tend to make adjustments quicker, and they may arrive quicker than the others. So that's the only way that we know of expediting the development process, is to go out and find great athletes that adjust quicker, and they're more likely to move quickly through the organization.
Gary Denbo, thank you for these couple minutes, and we wish you the best in developing these players and getting a World Championship ring for the Marlins soon.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por escuchar estas entrevistas con Dan Greenlee y Gary Denbo. Agradecemos nuevamente el apoyo de Craig Mish y Jeremy Taché por dejarnos usar el audio de su entrevista con Dan Greenlee. Yo soy Leandro Soto de Cinco Razones POD, el único podcast en español de Five Reasons Sports Network. De parte de Cinco Razones y de mis compañeros Alejandro Villegas y Ricardo Montedioca, este fue el primer episodio especial de Cinco Razones Podcast.